Hello guys, I'm Andrei, a certified translator and a real estate concierge. We're now located in Novaya Borovaya, one of the most modern blocks in Minsk. Human designed, human oriented. Not the two features any block would combine these days. And today we're talking about a flat hunt for an American. A fairly standard situation these days. Here, an American looking to settle down. We will overlook the age group and motivation, of course, but we will aim at the standard cheapest apartments to start with. It has its own reasonable grounding that we will not get back to right now. We'll just talk about real estate, which is getting dashed expensive in the city of Minsk. That we discussed during the real estate updates in the past months, but I wasn't ready for that kind of pricing. The second thing that was kind of expectedly complicated was the bank transfer, which is now underway. The money is being pushed from the USA by and by. It's funny how a democratic man who earned his money honestly has hardships and issues pushing his money around the world to the place where he wishes to spend it. I guess that's the modern democracy. Let's focus on the real estate though. The reasons for the prices to go up we have actually been numerously referring to in the previous updates on real estate. Since the beginning of the year we've been setting records. The numbers of the deals per month have been breaking historic records. Like 2013 was the best-selling year in a way for the sellers, not for the buyers. Some of those buyers are now trying to resell using the same price, but not so easily. The landmark unit that we'll be using in our story is the standard and reasonably cheapest apartments, not the cheap garbage kind of apartments, but cheapest apartments that can be resold, rented out and everything, ready for that, ready for the TRP. And we will focus on several options just to showcase you the current state of the market in Minsk for you to make your own conclusions, your own shopping plans, and eventually you might contact me for a consultancy or something more specific here on the ground. Let's see what kind of options we saw. Obviously, metro is the magnet for the masses, so we were focused on the Moscow metro line for a number of reasons as well, starting with the eastern part of the city, my favorite one. And this first step, as is always the case on the ground when you are not familiar with the city on an expert level, let's say if you're a buyer, you're taking someone along to show you around, to get the samples of what your $60,000 may buy you. And that experience was kind of awful on my side as well, because what we discovered as offers was really overpriced, I would say. Standard units like one-room apartments we were focusing on allow us to understand how things work because they're more or less comparable size-wise and everything. And the level of pricing, whatever you get in return for that, allows you to understand your next moves, especially when you have some wise consultant next to you. The first apartment out of the two, getting on the screen now, was in the building where I actually lived, next to the school where I went, which was kind of easier to navigate, but the rest was obvious. The place is roughly 33 meters large, the living room is roughly 17 meters large, and then there's bathroom and toilet and kitchen. And a few things that we saw, I will leave out the criticism for these units because that's more like a commercial and professional information. The places were a bit too small for the money charged. Of course, that was expected price, not necessarily the price anybody was going to pay. And we just left to see the other place with our own conclusions. The other place was in the same district. I'll put the map snapshot. The place was in the very center, in the very core of this neighborhood. Again, Uruchi is a very good middle-class neighborhood, although middle class is a very vast class. So the really skinny people, they're not very obvious on the streets here in Belarus. So that's why the place is very safe. Mostly people are fairly middle class here. Speaking about lower middle class. And the second place wasn't super impressive either. The pictures were very good, but at a glance, when you put your fingers on the wallpaper, so to speak, in all senses, it turned out to be quite budget little thing, and 60,000 was a bit too steep for it as well. The second place that we saw was from about the same era. It's just a building that was taller, and there were plenty of neighbors on the level. And the renovation that was there seemed not just aged, but apparently interrupted by some factors that we didn't really want to research. So it didn't fit into the $60,000 picture that we visualized when we started shopping. It's my subjective opinion based on the recent flat hunts. Either flat would go monthly for some $300 after a little bit of investment. Nothing too global, but neither of them seemed like the deal that we wanted, so we moved on. This next place was in the city center. The third place was kind of interesting, and it was located behind Gorky Park. The rough location will be here, and the tram lines were on the other side. The place was a Stalin-era flat with high ceilings. And there was a couple with a kid living there with a little renovation, which seemed to have stopped. Again, a question mark. Why would it have stopped after having brushed up the bathroom and toilet to such an agreeably okay level, I would say a good level? And that's a bit of an adventure in Stalinka. Its capital improvement was 20 years back, which means there's not going to be one coming soon. But still, the place looked a little bit, how shall we say, that's just when you have something that you want and the money for it, but you just don't want to buy that specific thing. I would say the third property could have potentially been somebody's investment, although it would probably necessitate roughly $5,000 to complete the brush up. And you shouldn't forget that ancient places like Stalin flats from the 50s and 60s or 40s may bring about different undercover stuff, different concealed issues that only surface when your bulldozer guys start zeroing the place, just like with my client near train station right now. We examined the place, asked the polite questions, and committed it to our memory, moving on to the next neighborhood, for which I place my highest hopes when we're shopping with the Westerners. And basically, several clients landed here after having checked the properties in Minsk. This Novaya Borovaya district is somewhat outside the city. Technically, it's not even Minsk, but it's called the IT area, colloquially known as IT area. It's stylish, it's modern. And it's kicking, it has the vibe. I've put on a review with drone shots and everything from the previous years that you may find in the link below. And one of my first clients to buy a flat remotely is just based across the street, still here, buying little houses here and there. And it's working. So we saw a place which was a little bit too tight for $60,000, making my client basically appreciate this neighborhood. At sunset and everything, it has its charm, and eventually we decided to up the stakes, and there'll be the second round of views somewhere on Thursday or Friday. So we'll see what exactly may be obtained here for $80,000 to $100,000 frame. This was about our first round of apartment shopping, more like apartment hunting, given the rates and how the handy options are going away in the city. And if you have any specific questions, any technical questions, please message them directly, don't put them on public board. And any comments, any likes, any dislikes, any impressions about what you've seen, except who would buy that stuff, is very welcome underneath the video in the comments. This was Andrei from Minsk. Hopefully I'll see you here for some coffee. Cheers. See you later.